In continuation, the strengths of this study include the consideration of a multitude of interventions throughout the probiotic supplementation studies, as well as the variability of CD progression or Crohn's disease progression amongst the participants in the studies that compared the microbiome of Crohn's disease patients to healthy controls. The strengths of this study also show the efficacy of the microbiome in improving the overall health status of patients with Crohn's disease and associated inflammation. This study also takes into consideration that there are very limited studies that are consistent in adding additional efficacy to the present interventions, especially amongst those receiving probiotics. The limitations of this study are that the study does not take into consideration the lack of extraneous variables, meaning extraneous variables in this study would be diet, smoking, taking other medications, whether they just had a withdrawal from other medications, whether they just had a relapse in Crohn's disease, and other factors as well, such as exercise, would affect the overall outcomes of this study and would be beneficial for the consideration of future research. The studies also consider ulcerative colitis in Crohn's disease. In some of them, and the only efficacious or significant outcomes are seen in those with ulcerative colitis. Therefore, some of the benefits to Crohn's disease still remain unknown. Moreover, implications for research and practice show that the VSL number 3 H-strain probiotic had the most efficacious changes in the overall inflammation state, the Crohn's disease activity index score, as well as the decrease in pathogenic bacteria and the increase in microbiome associated probiotics. The probiotic Faecobacterium prausnitzii should be considered as a probiotic in supplementation due to its continued efficacious utilization in current research. And it doesn't make extensive amount of sense in a way that it's not currently being used if it's so beneficial and tied to Crohn's disease. There is continued efficacy in probiotics for those diagnosed with Crohn's disease, and this should be considered as a portion of the microbiome in Crohn's disease. Further research for improving the efficacy of probiotics, probiotic-rich yogurt, and other factors would benefit from the utilization of these interventions. That said, probiotics could still benefit Crohn's disease patients whether they are in active Crohn's disease or not. And this should be considered for practitioners, dietitians, nutritionists, etc. for the future. Thank you so much for viewing this presentation. These are my references. I appreciate you taking the time to view this presentation. I hope it was informative and beneficial.